Guess who's back? Back again. We are back. Tell your friends. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? All right, I'm sorry. That's awful. What's up, everyone? The Daily Fix is back. And as Greenberg used to say, better than ever. Because me and Joe, we got a new dance partner. We're like one of those TV shows that near the end of the run, they had to bring on an extra character because they had lost a little sauce. And boy, did we bring on a character.
I'm Poochie from The Simpsons, baby.
There you go. I love it. I love it. What's going on, boys?
Well, I mean, Saquon Barkley just caught a nice wheel route against my Packers. So we're vibing, I guess.
Joe, how's school?
Walk out of my classroom, to watch the kids get on the bus and everything. Everybody go home for the weekend, and had to break up a fight between two 7th grade girls. So there you go.
Snap.
The classic middle school right there.
But was it like are we talking a violent fight, or are we talking like, it's pretty easy to break up?
I mean, by the time I got there, they were already like on the ground. So I just had to push them apart. But, it's not the worst fight I've ever broken up, but it's been a while. So
I'm sure there's some
I was out of practice
that you would probably be like, you know what? I'm not getting in the middle of that. At least I know when I was growing up as a small kid, there was plenty of groups. When I was like, I'm not getting in that.
I had a kid when I was a school monitor where I just held him in place because that was all I could do, because he was at least 50 pounds heavier and the same height as me. So you never know.
All right. Well, we're not here to talk about school fights. I know that's a lot of fun, but we appreciate everybody joining us. We will be every Friday night, 9:00, us three goobers, trying to help you win some money on DraftKings. We're going to focus on MME, which for those that have followed me and Joe, that has not been our specialty. But I mean, we're pretty good at the other stuff. We figure why can't we let it correlate? We've got Kevin, who is obviously super smart as well. And what we're going to do is, again, talk about MME. If you want to hear cash game plays, I'm going to have an article on Fantasy Frames each week. Me and Joe have a show on Fantasy Six Pack where we talk about cash games. So there's plenty of places you can find that. But we're going to focus on MME. You have any questions? You want to add anything to some of the players we're talking about? Please speak up in the chat, because that's the great thing about DFS is we can collectively win some money if we get on the right path. I was actually talking about Joe's call of De'Ami Brown 2 years ago, literally earlier today, where De'Ami Brown was 3,000. This was 2 years ago. I'd never heard of the dude. He catches 2 passes for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe, I didn't realize that season he had 185 yards on the year. So he had 80 yards the rest of the season. So pretty impressive, my friend. But we're going to start each week, go position by position. The QBs, we talked last night, Kevin. I think the cash game plays are honestly like Baker, Jaden Daniels. I will say I'll have to give a real look at Justin Fields if he is indeed the starter. I think he would be somebody that belongs on both MME and cash. But, Kevin, where are you starting kind of with your QBs this week?
If I'm building the tournament lineup, if I'm like basically I'm not trying to scour too much. Like, I want to try to stay within that like 6K range where you can still get value, but you can still get it, pretty cheap. I do like Trevor Lawrence against Miami. I think that's a really good pick, and I think that's going to be very easy to stack if you want to stack some players there in that game. Brian Thomas is pretty cheap. Christian Kirk's not
cheap. I mean, to be honest,
Gabe Davis. I mean, that's like Mr. Tournament play right there. It's like Gabe Davis, where that dude could just go 2 for 110 and 2 touchdowns, and completely break it at like I don't even know what his price is, but I mean it's got to be halfway decent. Where is it? I just had it. 4,500. Like
very respectable.
Like Trevor Lawrence to Gabe Davis for all the money. Brian Thomas is 4,700. Kirk isn't even bad at 5,500. That's probably
same price for Ingram. Yep.
Right. And you could probably bring somebody back in that game too. You can obviously bring your Tyreek. You could bring Devin H. Too. So that would be like where I would start. Is I do like Jacksonville and Miami, where it's one of the higher over-unders on the slate, on the main slate. And that's where I'd start.
How about all you had to do is start talking on the show? Long touchdown for Green Bay, Jaden Reed. So maybe you need to talk a little bit more. Joe, who you?
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you want to add something there? Because
I was just gonna say I was just gonna say I'm old enough to remember when Jaden Reed was going to be not playing in 2 wide receiver. He's not, but like that matters for Jaden Reed.
He's so good, man. He's so freaking good. He's my favorite of your receivers, and I'm talking about from a fan perspective. Like it's just that dude is a kind of a mini tank, which is always fun to see.
Good times,
Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're so used to the cash game. I had to like get into that different mindset because there's that part of me that's just like, well, what if Baker does just go off with Mike Evans? But then you're like, but there's zero rushing upside, and then if Washington does not keep pace, that's going down the drain pretty fast probably. Whereas his receivers are still, I think, reasonable plays. So yeah, I think Kevin's right. You're looking in that 6,000 range. I assume a lot of people are going to be throwing Anthony Richardson into their lineups. You can see, based on his limited time last year, how explosive he could be in that offense. And that is a game where I think they will have to keep up. So for me, I'm really looking at him and Trevor Lawrence, and I'm liking Trevor Lawrence more because I just think he's going to be in fewer lineups. Just because, I think Miami is going to put up a lot of points in that game. Like Kevin said, was it 49.5? Did you say was the over/under on that game?
Yeah, it's like 48, 49. If anywhere within there, but still, yeah.
So that's easily top tier for the over/unders in this slate, and we were talking yesterday where Trevor Lawrence I think has gotten kind of lost in the shuffle, underrated because of a lot of things outside of his control did not go well last season. He had a lot of losses. In reality and fantasy wise, because it just drops by his wide receivers. And if Brian Thomas hits the ground running, then I think this offense does too. So, and I like Trevor Lawrence. We're talking up a lot of Evan Ingram this whole month going into this slate. So I like that combo a lot. So Lawrence is probably my top play in a tournament setting.
All right. We mentioned the guy that, if it looks the way it is looking, which reports are Wilson is not going to play, it's a smash play for me with Fields.
Yeah.
And I don't even care if he's high on. Like I tell people, sometimes even in MME, when you get a guy with that kind of upside at 5,000, I don't have to stack them, which is one of my favorite things is when you have a running quarterback to that level. I'm not even putting a wide receiver from. I don't have to worry about that. And Fields can do plenty on his own. So it'll be Fields. But if you want to give me, give you one other name, I kind of keep circling Geno. I think people are going to be off the Seahawks in general. I mentioned I don't hate Geno for cash, to be honest, because you can stack Geno with JSN. And me and Joe were talking about this, Kevin. Let's see if you agree. I keep seeing Denver's got one good defender, and he's elite, Patrick Surtain. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's going to be on Metcalf most of the game, meaning that JSN is probably going to have free reign because the corners that JSN are against, not very good. I talked about it in my Fantasy Six-Pack article. Our number 2 corner lost his job from last year. They said there's a chance he could still end up being the number 2 corner. The last 6 weeks, he had a PFF grade of 54.5. We're kind of all waiting for JSN to break out. And I think, I think everything with Seattle was the offensive line and the scheme last year. I think we're all really high on the scheme they're going to run this year. It's going to be a faster pace. It was one of the best play callers in the country. I don't care if it was college football. And then that offensive line just needs to stay healthy. And I think Geno's going to have time. So I really do like playing Geno, stacking him with JSN. But if not, like I said, if Fields is playing, that's probably going to be my play. And again, the upside of that is you just don't have to worry about stacking him. Like if you have a running quarterback of that level, don't overthink it. Like if you don't like one of the receivers, you don't have to play them.
Yeah. Fields is the guy that, like, if he smashes, he's the guy you have to win. Like that is the quintessential Justin Fields play where even if it's going to be like 45 to 50% of the field has Justin Fields just because he's 45 or 5K, you still have to have him to win if he goes off for more than 30 points.
Completely agree.
But I do love the Geno play too, because there's the game theory aspect of if you're not super like baked into, college or anything like that, you're still on the fence about Seattle and how they're going to run their offense. But if you're, in there in the weeds and knowing what Ryan Grubb likes to do, which is run a lot of 11 personnel, Tyler Lockett's banged up too. So you could even
That's a great point.
Throw like I don't want to say
JSN stack for nothing if Fant plays. I mean it's like 3,200, I think 3,400, something like that.
Yeah, Fant's 4K, JSN's 4,900. That's pretty reasonable for what you can get out of that too. Even DK Metcalf.
Yeah, he's not bad at all. It's just Surtain does scare me. You know what I mean? Like that's arguably one of the best corners in football.
Yeah, certainly. And then you could play that out because if you can even play that kind of aspect too, where DK would be like 4% owned in a tournament, where you could get massive leverage off of everybody playing Fant and who in JSN or whatever the case may be. And then if DK even just gets a touchdown, if DK gets you like 17, 18 points, a low owned 17, 18 points might even be better than like a 35%, 20 points or 22 points.
So before we move on to running backs, Kevin, I just want to thank you because something you talked about on our last show together is something me and Joe stole last night on the F6P show. I think it's really brilliant about like looking at guys' ADP, especially players we're high on that went a lot lower, like the Khalil Shakirs, the Geno Smiths, etc. And without even seeing the projections of ownership, I think that there's a very good correlation that if people have been drafting those guys late in drafts, they're probably going to be low on, right? Because people are kind of just out on those guys in general. And that's great news for us. So I thought that was a great point early in the year. Moving on to the running back. So again, for cash last night, you could talk us into the top guys, but I keep circling Kenneth Walker versus just an awful Denver defense. I love Tajay Spears at 5,100. I think that he's going to catch passes. That is something that Chicago's linebackers really struggled with last year, was covering running backs out of the backfield. And then, like, if you want to tell me you want to play Bijan, I don't hate that. But the guy I'm talking about or starting with for my MME is, again, a guy that has just been really low in drafts. I've been shocked how late he's going. It's a guy that scored 21 touchdowns last season, and I know everybody loves Devin A-Chain, but I think Raheem Mostert is still probably going to get most of the goal line carries and be very heavily involved in what we expect to be a very good Miami offense. And I kind of like going against the grain here because I think most people are going to be afraid to play him, want to play A-Chain. I understand that 100%, but Mostert at his price, which I think is 6,300 or 6,400 against a Jacksonville team that kind of was not great versus the run last year. Like, I love that. Joe made the point last night. He scored 21 freaking touchdowns. Is he going to have regression? Of course. But if he's still kind of in the same role, he's going to have double digit this year and have some monster games.
Yeah. I mean, Mostert's a pretty easy play to make there if you're just super high. I mean, I trust no head coach more than Mike McDaniel to put the best guys on the field in the best position to just maximize their talents. Yeah, it certainly goes for HN. It certainly goes for Mostert. So definitely it on that. As far as like a guy that I don't think has any concerns about losing any work, to any back behind him, I'll spend the next $300 ahead of Mostert and go with Alvin Kamara, 6,700. I think it's a good price. Maybe he's not what he used to be in the rushing aspect, but I mean, they're going to be playing Carolina at home. I would say they might be a little bit better, but there's no Brian Burns there. They're pretty much gutted right now on defense. I think Kamara can remember last year when he came on, he would put up 2, 3, 10 target games in a row. That's what we're looking for out of Kamara, where we know that Derek Carr could just pepper him with targets, and you could just get a lot of cheap points that way. And even if the dude gets 55 and a touchdown, you're still getting probably 8 for 68 through the air too. So that's a good way to get, even if you don't get the bonus either way, it's still a good, points per dollar play with Alvin Kamara there.
Brain, you got anything to add there, bro?
I was very tempted to just go with Bijan because I think he's near the top of just overall rankings I would have this week. But yeah, I ended up very much in the same headspace as you, where especially if you're thinking along the same lines of I like Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. I think it makes a lot of sense to then go with one of the running backs for Miami. And obviously A-Chain, 7 yards of carry, all that. I get it. I certainly wouldn't argue anyone out of that play this week. But so it's not like Mostert. I know he's old. You just look at how old he is. And you're like, oh, is this year he fades out?
He's not old in football years, though. That's
right. His carries are not old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you look at the stats last year, and you can see this guy was still really productive. Sorry, I'm having a computer issue right now.
Barkley just scored
All
again.
Right.
Good Lord.
Oh my gosh. Well, breakaway run rate, Mostert, 6th in the NFL last year. Juke rate, 7th. 10th overall in evaded tackles. It's not just he got goal line carries. It's,
But Joe, I had somebody on TikTok tell me yesterday that those are BS stats, evading tackles and breakaway run rate. And I'm like, I don't have time to explain this to you, bro.
There's certainly not made up stats in the Mike McDaniel offense.
They're garbage machine learning stats.
That's all he produces is opportunities for guys in the open field, and then he gets running backs who he knows will produce in that situation.
And he trusts Mostert, right? You were making that point last night that I think out of all the backs, he trusts Mostert big time.
Yep. Right. He brought him with him. He was like, hey, come over here, come to the East Coast. I'm going to give you opportunities. And 21 touchdowns later, he's happy he came. So, yeah, for me, especially, early on, I'm sticking with Mostert until he inevitably gets hurt, because he gets hurt at some point in every season. I can say that as someone who's had him in a lot of season long over the years. But, yeah, early on, I love this play in a game. I think it's going to, points galore. I love the partnership where Trevor Lawrence has got to come from behind. Mostert scoring touchdowns for Miami to keep them ahead.
Can I give you another name, guys, of somebody that I really like? People are going to look at Brian Robinson Jr. and they're going to say, well, Tampa was 3rd against defense. You got Austin Eckler. And I'm going to answer, A, I don't care. I think Brian Robinson is that dude. B, I think they're going to be down. And Brian Robinson proved last year. I know Eckler's a good pass-catching back. Brian Robinson was an excellent pass-catching back last year, particularly the second half of the season. And for 5,200, the guy that I think is going to get most of the goal line carries as well, I could easily see Robinson having 15, 20 points. And I think he's going to be very low on, because people, again, we talk about it all the time. When people look down and they see that 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever against it, not saying that this is a bad philosophy, but people are just going to go, I don't want to mess with that. Remember, it's the beginning of the season. So that data is old and outdated. Not saying you shouldn't look at it, but don't live by it, especially the first few weeks. So I really like Robinson Jr. at 5,200.
Yeah, do like that. I've been looking through some of the lower end running backs and trying to figure out ownership. And I haven't even taken a look at any projections or anything, because I know those can be off big time. But I still think that Devin Singletary will be very low owned, as well as Aaron Jones, where a lot of people are just going to want to play. Even with Sam Darnold, they want to jam in Justin Jefferson because it feels good and it feels safe. But I think Aaron Jones is kind of I think both those running backs in that game, Singletary 5,700 and Aaron Jones 6,500. I'd probably still rather play Mostert, but I do at the end of the day, when you're looking at ownership and you want to try to get, the low owned guys, you don't want to have what everybody else is having, or else obviously you're toast as far as tournament play. But, I think he's a guy that can certainly, we know that Ty Chandler is going to be involved, but I would not be surprised if Aaron Jones comes out with at least 20 opportunities.
Well, they're going to need him, right? I think for Minnesota to be good, they need Aaron Jones to eat, especially before Hawkinson gets back. Joe's talked about J.K. Dobbins several times. Where have you came out on that, Kev? Because Joe said he's still an MME He's down for it. Cash, a little bit, more leery, but where do you stand with the Chargers backfield? Because that's a potential good opportunity against a defense that struggled, and we know Harbaugh is going to run the ball.
It is, but I just don't want to be the bag holder of a guy that has 4 carries. I don't want to be left holding that. So that's kind of where I stand, where it could literally be Dobbins or Edwards or Vidal or
Haskins.
Good God. Yeah.
Exactly. Michigan boy, man. I keep telling people.
How many pieces do I want to cut that pie before it's not even worth eating? Like, that's where I'm at with the Chargers backfield. So I'll totally be fine waiting and seeing. But if Dobbins, screws me over like he's done, multiple times, I'll just eat it. It's fine.
Anybody else we want to hit on before we go to wide receivers?
I mean, I would just say the Bengals backs again, because
I
was going to say Moss.
Yeah, I was going to say take your pick. I think Moss is probably the safer play. Chase Brown, there is that maybe he only ends up with 4 carries type of risk, but in a game where good chance they're winning by 14, 17 points, I think either guy is a good play, especially if Jamar Chase does not play. Then I think you're going to see even more of a focus on the run game. So. Yeah, I think both of those guys have to be at least people you're considering.
Yeah, and I would throw Mixon in there too, because I think he's like the leverage play.
You think ownership is what you're saying is the main thing? Like, you think he's going to be low on?
For Mixon?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, just because everybody is going to be falling over themselves to stack CJ Stroud.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. Is you're saying you're going the other way in offense?
Right. Really to get anything I can off of those people who want to jam in Houston Texans receivers and Stroud. I think Mixon's probably the best kind of leverage point. All you got to do is
talk and Reed scores another long touchdown. Oh, man. How about them Packers?
That'll play.
Wait, who was it?
It was Reed again. He's like literally becoming Debo Jr. before our eyes. The other guy I just want to throw out there is, I keep saying, I think Buffalo is going to roll Arizona. And I know Kevin completely disagrees with me, but I think they're going to be up big. And Ray Davis, to me, that gets interesting, because I could see if they get up a couple of touchdowns, 1-2, he's 4,500 against maybe the worst run defense in the NFL. At least if you look at PFF, they feel like that's going to again be one of the worst. They were 32nd versus running backs last week. I think Davis is going to be basically 0% owned. Again, for MME, it's somebody I don't mind taking a shot with.
I'll hold my Cardinals take for a little bit. That's fine. I'll sit on it.
Joe, you got any other backs before we move on to wide receivers?
I mean, probably in this format, I think we've covered the guys that I'm mostly looking at.
Okay. Yeah. Any other just thoughts in general about the running backs? Because, I mean, don't hold your breath. I want to give the people as much good information as we can.
I mean, say what you want to say, but this could be the cheapest you get Devon Achane all year.
I think that's very fair.
It's a very, very real possibility.
I was saying the same thing about McLaurin and Daniels, that if they have a good game, this could be the lowest you see them all year as well. Because I think McLaurin's 58 or 900. I know Daniels is 57. I think they're going to take a big jump as well. All right. Wide receivers. So just real quickly with Cash, because I want to ask you this, Kevin, get your thoughts. I'm kind of punting all the way down until Mike Evans. Like, Mike Evans is the most expensive guy. Like, I'm passing, Jefferson, I want to wait and see. Hill could potentially be, great. But again, he's so expensive. I mean, God dang, he's 1,500 more than Evans. He's 1,700 more. Nico is my favorite play, wide receiver by far this week.
But are those guys too that, like, what is the cap on their ownership? Even at those prices. Again,
cash game, I don't care. I'm doing single.
Cash game is whatever.
Right.
Tournament wise, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm asking for. Like, single entries, would you just, or would you still want to play one of those guys? Because there's just so much more expensive.
I mean, Hill's fine. I mean, I think a lot of those guys are fine. I mean, I'd probably more hit Lamb and Hill than Jefferson. Obviously, Chase, don't even know if he's going to play. Adams, I'm iffy. Evans is whatever, but yeah, I would be Lamb or Hill, and then like a solid third is Jefferson. There's a pretty big gap between those two and Jefferson, but the mid, like the upper, or the lower upper tier of like the Nico Harrison is like a dead
very
zone.
Juicy to me for cash.
I get the dead zone, honestly. Like, I don't want to touch Adams at 7,600. I don't know if I want to.
I'm not touching that. I'm talking about, but almost every cash game lineup I have this week has Evans and Nico. Like, it just does.
From like Diggs down though, that's like a pretty fertile spot for a lot of guys. Like, if you want to get the leverage off of Hill, you play Waddle at 63. We just talked about DK at 6,200. I think even Drake London is a fine play. Malik Neighbors is going to be very popular. Godwin, even I don't mind Hopkins. Hopkins at 5,700, knowing he's healthy. I know he's questionable, but I do think he is going to play. I think that's a pretty good spot. Same with McLaurin. I know that's your boy, Keith.
For sure. I do want to say that for MME, I think this is a week that Lamb's going to be low on. People are going to look that, he held out the Browns, and let's be honest, who else are they going to throw the ball to? If you're going to trust anybody, like if I'm getting CD Lamb and he's going to be relatively low owned, I think that's a smart play because, he's CD Lamb. Like I want a real quick look. I don't know if he had one game last year that he didn't score double-digit points, and he ended the season with 20 or more in, I think it's 6 out of his last 7. So
28, 44, and 35 to finish the season in DK points.
So, again, and then Cooks is questionable, right? I believe, and if Cooks is out, good God, he could get 30 targets in that game. So,
the other thing too there, Keith, that I want to add on to CD is Ben Solak had an article today over at ESPN where he mentions that he put up, last year CD versus 2 high versus single high. Obviously, Cleveland, very heavy single high team. His yards per route run doubled against single high. From 1.85 to 3.74. His target share goes up to 33.4. So if you're also telling me Cooks is out, then that target share could be it could be 40% potentially. So if you are going to
go ahead, Joe, I'm sorry.
So if you are going to, spend up on one of those guys, and to your point, tough defense, people are looking at it, opposition third against wide receivers last year. Maybe people are doubting the Cowboys. There is a low ownership possibility here where maybe, and he comes through and maybe he's worth that 89. Obviously, it's risk because it is good defense. You are paying
cash though,
premium,
right? Like, excuse me, it's MMA. If you're doing MMA, you got to take your shots. Like that's what I tell
right.
people.
You have to.
I know somebody's going to be low on. Like if I see projections where he's going to be low on, he will probably be in almost every one of my MMA lineups.
Yeah. Cooks is off the injury report, by the way.
Okay, well that's good for a lot of my fantasy teams. So is there any interest in Diggs? Because I just wonder, is that going to be the guy that nobody wants to own, right? Because, again, if you look at what Nico did versus cover 3 last year, which the Colts run at the highest rate in the NFL, 55%. CJ Stroud, number 1 QBR versus cover 3 last year. If I remember correctly, Tank Dell was also really good versus cover 3 last year. And I just wonder if people then are going to sell on Diggs because they're going to either want Nico, right, or they're going to just pay down and get Dell. So to me, again, if you're looking at MME, like Diggs is kind of intriguing to me, and maybe they just want to get him involved to kind of get him into the system and keep him happy right off the start.
Like Diggs, will you shut up if we give you 5 targets in the first drive? Like, can we get you to sign this contract? Well, you do not say anything about any of our players or date anybody's sister. If we give you like 10 targets in the first half, Dell's going to be the most owned at 5,500. That's just the nature of the beast. Collins is probably going to be the least owned, but Diggs is probably going to be closer to what Dell is.
Not in my DK account, and definitely not in my heart because he's the slam dunk to me and everything.
Diggs, you mean?
No, Collins.
Collins.
That's the thing. I mean, Collins is the most expensive. I mean, you're going to have to probably figure something. I mean, if you're just jamming those guys in, then, that's one thing. But if you're like trying to make every dollar count, but you can't get to Collins, but you're getting the Diggs is $300 cheaper. I mean, I could see where, people would get off of Collins. I mean, who knows? Maybe that 3 yards per route run was a little bit of a fluke because maybe CJ Stroud is the kingmaker more than Nico Collins really broke out. Like, I think that's a perfectly acceptable range of outcome for Nico Collins. So I think for me, if I'm thinking through this, like game theory wise, I mean, Dell, I think is a smash, and I think he's going to carry like 30% ownership at that price. Getting access to that offense, I think it's a great confluence of factors. But I think Diggs is like, I feel way more comfortable putting Stephon Diggs because he's done it for years upon years upon years. So I think he is probably the next like most comfortable guy, where Collins kind of has the factors of he's the most expensive. He kind of came on, late when Dell got hurt. Maybe, we want to find a cheaper way to play it. So that's kind of where I see it. But again, totally happy being wrong. I would just rather play Dell to get $1,500 cheaper to get access to the offense.
Well, you're wrong. And he scored like 37 points against the Colts both times last year. I will be having, again, Nico in every single lineup. I think he had 360 yards versus one game with Dell, one without. But I agree with you about, like, I think Diggs is the guy to go to in these larger fields because I actually think Diggs is going to be lower owned than Collins because, Barnett, a lot of people are, tweeting up Nico this week, which I don't love seeing that, but, it is what it is. Who's like your first guy, Kevin, that you're, I want in my, MME lineups?
I mean, we talked about like there's a treasure trove of guys at like the 5K 40, JSN we talked about at 4,900, Malik Neighbors at 5,900, which I think is just, even if you throw out Daniel Jones, he can be a donk, but you can't argue with some of the volume because we'd rather throw to him.
Joe is a Giants fan there, Kevin.
I mean, I get that, but I mean, give me Malik Neighbors all day.
I just mean kid.
Right? No, there's
the donk part,
No,
I mean, is there any evidence to refute that? I mean, that's
you at least
anyway.
Earmuffs then next time.
I mean,
like earmuffs.
The last time that Daniel Jones has looked great, well, give or take 1/2 against the Cardinals last season, was 2 games against the Minnesota Vikings, which that was granted a much different defensive coordinator. So I think this will be a little bit tougher. But I mean, it's also easier to throw to Malik Neighbors than it is every guy who was on the team 2 years ago, where I think PFF had the article. It was like, this is the slow, tracking stuff. It was like, this was the slowest receiving core in the NFL 2 years ago. So now you've got Neighbors, you've got actual speed. That should help at least. And they are 100% manufacturing as many touches as possible from Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, you had literal glacier Isaiah Hodgins out there. I mean, that's
right. And he was productive, at least against the Vikings, but
yeah, him and Richie, like that year, 2022, when they were literally having open tryouts at wide receiver until they landed on Richie James and Hodgins. Yeah, that was, I mean, it's always a fun time when you can trot out Marcus Johnson and David Sills, maybe these guys will stick.
The fact that worked is just further proof of Brian Daboll offensive genius, because Daniel Jones, that offensive line, which one awesome left tackle and then trash, and that receiving core, and they were like 10th in DVOA on offense. They won a game in the playoffs. So if you ever actually get that quarterback,
the fact that Brian Daboll can not say with shame that he fed families off of that playoff run, like unreal. But I mean, like you're talking about Brian Thomas Jr. at 4,700. Like, I know people are so reticent to play rookies, but I think that the narrative is kind of spun to.
I'm with you. Like, the game's changed. These receivers are so much better prepared now when they come in the NFL because teams throw so much more in college. Like, to me, it's you just look more and more of them have success right off the bat.
Even like another guy, like I don't even like care about Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson at 5,300, if you're playing Saints stuff, I'm down with that. I mean, the dude can get open. Bryce Young can't. I mean, can Bryce Young be that bad again? I touted him a couple weeks ago on this show, where I wouldn't mind playing him to 5,300 honestly in a tournament setting where get 25 points.
All right, we got a question real quick, boys.
All right.
London or Neighbors better season? For me, it's London. And I am a Falcons fan, full disclosure, but I mean, you look what he's done with Mariota and Ritter. He was 29th in targets last year, first in contested catches. He's one of the rare guys that actually succeeds across the board, whether it be press, man, zone. I think he's like at least in the 75th percentile on all of them. And just number one receivers with Kirk Cousins. I mean, Diggs, Thielen, Jefferson, obviously. Like, I think London's going to have a monster. Not saying Neighbors won't, but it's just Neighbors. There's a lot more questions at QB to where even if, say, Cousins gets injured or is not as good as he wants, they drafted Penix at 8. So he's going to have 2 shots at it. You guys kind of agree or?
Yeah, I mean, play calling aside, I would trust everything on the Falcons offense more than I trust the Giants offense. So, I mean, there's definitely the potential. I like the closer we've gotten to the season. Again, I'm also a Giants fan, so I'm internally trying to hold back my Neighbors hype. He's closer. I paid the same amount for both of those receivers in an auction draft a week ago.
Wow.
So I'm in on both. And obviously, increasingly, people are in on Neighbors to the point where this is a discussion.
How much were they, if you don't mind me asking, Joe?
So it's $200 total and $27 each for.
Ooh,
that's solid.
Pretty good deal, man. Those are 2 target monsters.
But my problem was I spent on 4 receivers and kind of just forgot running backs existed. But that happens.
Oh, you're speaking Kevin's language. What are you talking about?
You're preaching, brother. You're preaching.
So, but yeah, so I like both a decent amount, but yeah, I like you said, I think you get London with, even if it's Penix all year, that's going to be the best quarterback he's had. So yeah, sign me up for London, even though I do like Neighbors a lot.
All right, I've got several guys I want to mention real quick. AD Mitchell, Downs is out. I think the Colts are going to be down.
Right.
I think that's a good situation for him. Greg Dortch, I don't know how many times I have to keep saying this. He's 3,900. Zay Jones is out. He has played now 10 games the last 2 years where he's got 70% or more snaps. In those games, he's averaging just over 8 targets, right at 6 receptions, and almost 15 points per game in PPR leagues. Wan'Dale Robinson, we keep talking about it. There's a lot of buzz coming out of camp where they're going to use him in the passing game as an extension of the run game. And again, PPR, full PPR and DraftKings. Robinson is somebody down the stretch. I think he had several double digit. Yeah, he went 19-9, 13-5, had a 17.5 game. Those were 3 of his last 5 last year. And the last name in this range, because again, I think these guys are all getting volume. Josh Reynolds for the Denver Broncos, 4,200. I like Reynolds. I mean, I guess Dulcich, I guess Franklin, like Sutton. I mean, who are they going to throw it to? It's not like Denver ran the ball very effectively last year. And I do like Seattle adding Murphy should booster their run defense. I think they're going to have to throw. And to me, Reynolds is another one of those receivers that it makes sense to put with Bo Nix because get rid of the ball quickly. Reynolds was actually 24th last year among wide receivers in fantasy points per target. Just didn't have a lot of opportunities. I think he'll get more this year. So those are all guys kind of 4,500 and below that I think will be low owned and have a chance to, score 15, 20 points.
Hear me out here. 3,300.
Yes.
Luke McCaffrey.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I will actually, because he's right below him in the same salary.
I was
going to say, where's McMillan? Yeah.
I was going to say, we're in on McMillan.
There you go.
Who, by the way, shout out to my buddy Pat Fitzmaurice and Andrew Hall for dropping him in King's Classic.
Oh, no way.
And got it. And ended up I picked them up.
How much did you have to
$12 out of 100.
$12? Not bad at all.
That's not bad at all. I mean, it's better than fucking Noah Brown. But
anytime, man. Anytime
who I literally picked him up.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, like if you're really like hard up for salary and you want to like try to chase a low salary guy, Jalen Hyatt, I don't mind either. Like at 3,100, that's one out over. Like
there's gonna be a few weeks where he hits. It's just gonna happen because he's too fucking fast for it not to happen.
What about the same vein, Calvin Austin for Pittsburgh? Especially I really like Austin. He's looked pretty good in the preseason pick. No,
I don't hate myself.
I'm with Kevin on this.
So y'all will go with Hyatt and not Austin?
I would rather go get Walmart Plus than put Calvin Austin in the tournament lineup.
Oh, I'm right. I'm writing this down because man, if he does anything, you guys are gonna get fucking roasted.
I've never been a Calvin Austin person.
I thought this was a safe space, you fucking assholes.
I mean, it's safe until you get over the line, and then all bets are off. What about Darnell Mooney at 4,200? I mean, if it's gonna be where it's 11 personnel and Pitts is on the outside, he's going to be on the outside with Drake London and Mooney and Pitts in the slot. Like that's fun. And looking at who Atlanta capped on the roster, like, do you really think they're going to be taking Pitts off the field or putting him in line for Casey Washington or Ray McLeod?
I just think Mooney's going to be in the slot, and I think they're going to put Pitts a lot outside.
That's fine. I mean,
I agree with you. I just think that's where Mooney's going to be most effective.
Yeah, you've got flexibility in how you do it. It's just the fact that if you're going to be putting 3 receivers out there, Pitts better be one of those 3. If Charlie Warner is playing in line,
they said as much. They said they're going to play him at wide receiver a lot,
and they've paid Charlie Warner a lot of money,
that's fair.
For an inline tight end. Yep. So. Like they have he's going to be playing a lot, and he's going to be like the Jeff Swaim role of you are literally the only guy blocking on the line with these 5 offensive linemen. Kirk Cousins, we know he can't move. You need to put that dude on an L cart to get him out of the outside the pocket. So like, do your damnedest, keep him in, and let Pitts and London and Mooney do what they got to do.
Man, the other thing with this matchup for Mooney is Joey Porter, I'm assuming, is going to be on London for most of this game, and that's one of the tougher.
That's one reason I'm a little leery about. A little leery about London this week is just if that is true. I think he's right there with Surtain as one of the best.
And they've had issues with their slot corners for years.
Yes, that is very good point.
Yeah, so I mean that's something where you can exploit that.
What about Noah Brown? Because they're saying he's going to be up to speed. Jaden Daniels throws a really good deep ball. We saw what Brown did with Stroud, another quarterback that throws a really good deep ball. He's 3,200. Because I think that Washington-Tampa game is going to be the sneaky shootout. Like, I would not be surprised if that ends up having the most points scored in that game.
I'm okay with Noah Brown. Like, he's not a sexy pick by any means. I don't know. If I'm going to be playing that, I feel like McCaffrey's like the upside play where like Noah Brown is like, if you look up 7.8 DraftKings points in the dictionary, Noah Brown's picture is like right there.
I mean, that
the guy that had a 3-game stretch last year, 30.3, 27.2, 22.2.
Yeah, but he also had Ohio State Kirk Cousins throwing in the ball, CJ Stroud. So
are you out on Daniels? I haven't talked to you about this.
Me? No. I love Daniels, but if I'm going to bring a piece, it's probably not going to be the super high, it's probably not going to be McLaurin, even though I don't mind his price. I mean, what's McLaurin at? 5,600? That's not bad.
Oh, he's 56, yeah.
That's not bad. And what's Daniels? Is Daniels like he's probably around there too.
Daniels 57 for sure.
Right. I know he's in the mid 5s, so that's a totally fine price. Other wide receivers, though, like it gets dead after like Deontay, where you're getting into the key. Like Keon Coleman's probably fine. We talked about Shakir, JSN. We talked about Brian Thomas, but then
we talked about this. Jorge has corrected me because he's the Washington fan. It's actually F1 McLaurin, even though everybody calls him Scary Terry. Apparently, it's a pretty cool nickname. I will give him that. Like F1,
that's the Matthew Berry effect. I think that was the Matthew Berry nickname, and that just stuck.
Well, I do like F1. So I always tell people now because Jorge, he's the boss and he's a Washington fan. Right. Let's move on to tight ends, which we know Stacey Perez loves talking about tight ends. We love you, Stacey.
There's one name for me.
Go ahead. Yeah, do it. Zach Ertz.
If you're not playing 4,600 Kyle Pitts, are you really living? I'm a slappy, and I'm willing to go to the grave. I'm willing to go to the grave.
I've got a lot of scar tissue, bro. And I mean, I'm a Falcons fan. I've got a lot of scar tissue. And it might be one of those deals that if I put them in a lineup, the rest of y'all are fucked. To where if I just will keep them out of any of my lineups, you guys will be good. He'll have 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. But if I put him in one of my lineups, you guys are in trouble.
I mean, this is the HN all over again, where this might be the cheapest you're going to get for him all season until he gets 1 for 21 on 5 targets, and then we're seeing him at 4K next week. But hey, this week could be the week. Been saying it for 3 years now after his rookie season. But yeah, it's about where I'm at.
And your defense, and I tell people all the time, I mean, you catch passes from Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder and tell me what you can freaking do. It ain't easy, okay?
Taylor
Heineke.
Heineke.
Easy being cheesy. Yeah, exactly. And I was serious about Ertz. I went back and looked.
Yeah, he's fine.
Man, Cliff loves freaking Zach Ertz. So I didn't realize he played 25 games in Arizona for Kingsbury. And none of those seasons did he average less than 6 targets per game, including last year. So you're probably going to get 6-7 targets from a guy who I think is 3,200. That is pretty good value, obviously, overall. And I also just want to add, it's easy to forget because it's been so long ago, but some of the stat lines that Pitts had with Matt Ryan, who was a wash Matt Ryan, but still the best QB he had, 9 receptions, 119, 7 for 163, 6 for 102, 4 for 77. Like, I am with Kevin, but just for you guys and the sake of my sanity, I'll stay away from them this week so you guys can eat. I'll walk so you guys can eat.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
I mean, it's the fact that Kyle Pitts is a 21-year-old rookie, put up a 1,000-yard season. Like,
right? It's people forget. It's like
broke the catch.
People seem to have this idea that like Kyle Pitts has always been a disappointment. It's like he was a huge success as a rookie. Like I was pumping the brakes going into that year, being like, rookie tight ends so rarely hit, and then Pitts has done this, Laporta's done it, and that seems to be out the window now. But it's like, yeah, the guy was a record setter rookie season. And now it's like, oh, well, he's just disappointed us forever. It's like, well, yeah, like Keith said, who's had a worse QB situation? Yeah.
And this is without touchdowns. Like he did that with 1 touchdown in his rookie season in 2021. Right. He has 6 in his career. That rookie season, he put up a 2 yards per route run on an 11.2 yard ADOT. Like 107 targets, 68 for 10 for 1,026 and a touchdown. Like you got to figure the Atlanta passing game is not even just going to be condensed, but it's going to be markedly better.
Yeah.
Like, and they're going to you would have to figure after the Dark Ages, which was basically like the 1350s Europe, which might as well have been the plague that was Arthur Smith. Now we're into the Renaissance era, and the Renaissance for Kyle Pitts is on their way. Look, a little European history.
I love it.
I got 2 other tight ends real quickly. The first is Brock Bowers. He's been cleared 4,500. I just stand by it. I think that Gardner's limitations is great for Bowers. Like, I don't feel great about Devontae just moving forward with Gardner Minshew because he's not going to run the routes that Pittman will. But Bowers is somebody that's what he did in college. He wasn't really running down the field. It was get rid of the ball quickly and let Bowers just run people over. The other guy is Hunter Henry at 4,200. Cincy was so bad versus tight ends last year. And Kevin, are you in the standpoint you think the Bengals win that game fairly easy? Because that's kind of where me and Joe got last night.
I mean, that's the thing is that the line was like 9 points between the Bengals game, and now you might not have Higgins is doubtful. Chase might not doubtful? Play.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Chase is questionable, but Higgins is doubtful. So that's where that line's going to close up a little bit.
Yeah. And I may not like Henry as much because, like I said, the whole point of that was if they were down, I could just see Henry, especially with Brissett at QB, getting a crap ton of targets. And on top of that, he's always scored touchdowns. So I might punt on that. Joe, you got any tight ends?
So like I said, if you're just if you really want to roll the dice, I think Ben Sinat's interesting just because I think they're going to be losing.
Yeah.
I think he's got some real talent as a receiving tight end. And like we just said, we've had some surprisingly productive rookie tight ends for a few years running. Obviously, Brock Bowers is the obvious choice to be that guy this year. And week 1 is maybe not the time to roll the dice yet. But again, I think Tampa Bay is going to be rolling on this Washington defense. So that sets up a lot of passing opportunities. They just traded away their previous number 2 wide receiver to the Eagles. So could be opportunity there.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried about, we know Cliff Kingsbury loves to cuck rookie tight end. Trey McBride, Ben, he's out to ruin, both with Zach Ertz, by the way. Like, he is out for blood. This is like the bad sequel that nobody asked for.
You think like McBride and them are calling him and being like, "Hey, bro, seen your tape. You're really good, but just to let you know, don't get your hopes up, okay?"
Patience.
Yeah. Like, he's just set. There's a text chain right now between McBride and Sinat, like, just telling him, you know what, it's going to be good eventually. Just weather the storm, buddy. You got this. That's the text chain. I'm just a little bit worried about putting Sinat in a lot. I do like I'm looking at, like, Juwan Johnson is totally fine at 3,700 because outside of Chris Olave, like, what can you really expect unless you're getting like the Taysom Hill blow up game, which, by the way, because he's 4,300. I wouldn't even mind putting a chip in on Taysom Hill either, or even like using it as my flex. Other than that, there's not a lot of tight ends, especially in the higher. Like, I like Trey McBride. I just don't know if I want to put 6,100 on him.
Sure.
If I want to pay that price, Kincaid is fine, but that's going to be a high owned stack with Josh Allen. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago as well. Dulcich for 3K, knowing what Dulcich can do, that's not a bad price. Just digging in, I guess Johnny Munt is like you're just chasing like some kind of production and someone has to score. So why not Johnny Munt? Johnny Smith is fine. So low end tight ends kind of gross.
That he is.
It is.
Oh, dude, tight ends is always gross for sure. I really appreciate Kevin being the gentleman he is, but Joe, he just asked, "Is there a show on after us?" I was like, "Jorge ain't that dumb. He knows that they would never get to on a show after us." So, we apologize. We're a little long-winded. Let's do defense real quick, and then we're all going to build a lineup that we're going to play. Let's do in the $5, millionaire. Why not? Like, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Defenses that we got the Panthers. We talked about the Pats are sounding kind of interesting to me now. You got, Higgins doubtful, Chase potentially missing. Like, they're a little bit more intriguing than they were, a week ago. No?
Yeah. I'm taking a look.
No, they are for sure.
Yeah.
They would not have been on my radar a week ago, and now it's like
they're 200 more in the
take away the top 2 wide receivers, and I still think that'll be a good defense. Christian Gonzalez is back. There's pieces to work with, although they obviously just traded away Judon, so I don't know. And Barmore's hurt, so I don't know what the pass rush situation is going to be.
Let's hope Judon was a big loss for my Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, other than that, though, I'm looking at some of like the Texans defense against the Colts. I don't mind either. That's a pretty decent leverage spot against Anthony Richardson because I know he's going to be. They're both priced in that low range where they probably figure that game's going to be a struggle. I don't know if that's going to be too much of a struggle where I want to play the Colts defense, but I would totally play the Texans defense there. Other than that, it's really what fits your build. That's where I'm defense. Like, I'm not seeking out a defense. Like, I'm really just saying what fits my build that has a realistic out.
All right. You want to pull up the thing? We'll build a few lineups. I can go first if you want me to. I know Joe's putting his together right now. Sorry, Joey. Probably should have gave you a little heads up on that. That's my.
Oh, no, I've got my lineup. I don't think I'll be able to share my screen because my.
Oh, no, we were just going to get Kevin to put it. Kevin,
okay.
I got a ticket.
I was going to say, I'm having to do all the DraftKings stuff on my phone because I'm using my work computer, which blocks all gambling sites. So.
No. You're good. I'll go first. Like I said, if
right.
Fields is playing, you can go ahead and throw him in at my QB without a doubt. So he's 5K. I'm going to go with 2 running backs that we talked about, and Kamara.
Are you just building this whole lineup, or is this what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I'm saying we're all building a lineup, and then we're going to see each week we're going to have some fun with this. Make it a little competition.
Right.
And Raheem Mostert will be the other back. So I'm going to have Kamara, Fields, Mostert. The receivers, I told you, I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be low on. I'm going to put Lamb in there. JSN we talked about, who I love. He's actually going to be in all my cash game lineups as well. And then just to show that I'm growing as a individual, despite shitting on Deontay Johnson the entire offseason, I'm going to throw Deontay Johnson in there. Tight end, because, Kevin said, if I don't play him, what am I doing? I threw Kyle Pitts in there. Sorry, guys. And then I'm going to go Terry F1 McLaurin. That's my flex. And the Pats D.
I'm just going to build mine like literally live right now.
I love it. I did mine, if it makes you feel any better, 2 minutes ago after I wrote down all the names of the players that we had.
I was going to say, I was retrofitting throughout this pod. So.
But, I talked about Trevor Lawrence, and it's kind of, it doesn't feel right to not at least throw
there you go.
Brian Thomas. I don't know if I want to go Ingram, because then it'd be a 2 tight end build, because of course I gotta have some kind of Kyle Pitts in there.
You're damn right you do.
So let's get Pitts in there.
Yep.
Running back. Let me see what we got here. I'm a slappy. HN coming back on that.
I like it.
I do want to get some sort of Seattle. It's going to be JSN and somebody, whether it's. Let me see if I can put Javonte in, because I do like Javonte as well. He's pretty cheap.
Especially if you think Seattle's going to roll, I'm with you with the pass catching aspect. Me and you have been high on Javonte just in general. People forget he had the knee injury, man. And like with backs, I feel like you have to give him a full 2 years before you can judge, what kind of running back they are. Because I really liked him coming out of college, and he looked great until he had the knee injury.
Right. I'm just putting a defense there that gives me some pretty good salary to play with if I want to play. Let's see. Do I want it? Can I do?
You can do whatever you
also
want to
have
do, but it's not cheaper than 50,000.
I still have some salary to play with too.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm doing neighbors, if I'm doing a little neighbors Aaron Jones correlation.
I like it.
So I've got some salary to play with.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Where if I wanted to go, I don't know if I want to go Jonathan Taylor. No, I don't.
Well, I would not. That Texans run D was very, very sound. Although he did tear them up, like week 17 or 18. But
what do I have to lose here if I want to put in Lamb?
You have absolutely nothing to lose.
I know. I could.
Other than I'll say that you copied my lineup, but that's okay. I took your pit, so I can't say anything.
If I just play, I could play Neighbors as a one-off, and I've got 5,600.
And the bad part is I'm going to have to really restructure mine if Fields ends up not starting.
I don't really want to play Sutton. The only thing is I hate playing. It's really, I don't want to play a lot of one-offs. You're trying to reduce the things you need to get right for a tournament. So if you get like 4 things right in your lineup, like if Jacksonville, Miami just goes nuts and you got the good parts of that game, that's what I'm trying to kind of avoid here. But I do like Neighbors as a one-off, even if I'm not. Oh, you know what?
There goes A.J. Brown, boys. Touchdown. Was a good throw.
Damn. Who's on him? Jair? Did he do that on Jair?
I think so. That was a really good throw.
Well, he is a grown-ass man, too. So
yeah, it was Jair. Yeah.
The Titans disagree, obviously, but they wanted to draft their wide receiver of the future when they traded him away for a first-round pick.
Let me see. So 6,100 running back. Here's a low-owned correlation. Ken Walker and JSN. I'll play. There you go. I'll play Jefferson and Nate.
Walker. Okay.
Yeah, I put in Walker. Walker and JSN together is going to be like a low-owned correlation. Neighbors and Jefferson, if that game, goes off a little bit. Pitts is a one-off, and then is Carolina the only 2,400 D? Yeah,
no,
that's fine.
Just don't give me. They're not the only one, but are they? I thought there was one with Cardinals. Yeah.
I mean, Panthers defense, even at that, is not like terrible. I mean, the Saints, Derek Carr can throw 3 interceptions with the best of them. So,
buddy, they are in.
Absolutely.
I have right now 12 lineups. The Panthers, where is that? It's got to be near the top. They're in 56%, $152 in my lineup. So, the Sam Mullen in Carolina would probably be an understatement. All right, Joseph, come on, kick our ass. We'll see what you got, brah.
All right, well, I am also in on the Trevor Lawrence train, so I'm locking him in. Like I said, if I'm going Lawrence, I like Mostert. I am going to just fucking roll the dice and get burned almost definitely, but J.K. Dobbins, 4,900. I just don't think the Raiders are going to be good.
I think it's the most upset.
I think, it's the Greg Roman offense. I'll roll the dice. I'm sure Mike Evans is going to be heavily owned, but I'm just going to stake my claim with him regardless.
Dobbins, is that your Roman Empire?
He might be. Ever since his rookie season, I've always been like J.K. Dobbins. It's going to happen, and then he keeps getting hurt. But when he's on the field, it kind of does happen. So he keeps that glimmer of hope alive. Mike Evans again. Washington over 100 yards per game to number 1 receivers last year. I don't know how, but maybe you can speak to this, Keith. Do you know what the general zone man splits were for Dan Quinn when he was running the Falcons? Do you have any idea?
He ran mostly cover 2, I believe, or cover 3, one of the two.
Okay. Because I know Dallas was heavy cover 3, a lot of man. That would just if he's trying to bring that at all over to Washington with those corners, that's a huge win for everyone on the Tampa Bay side. But especially Mike Evans, who is more productive against man defense. So love Mike Evans. I'm going with the Nico play. You've talked me into it with his ability to destroy cover 3, which you're going to see against Indy. JSN is one of the locks for me across the board. So I'm with you guys all the way there. Again, if I'm going Lawrence and I haven't gone with a receiver yet, that means I'm going Evan Ingram. I think Khalil Shakir might lead the Bills in receptions this year. Again, on DK, Cardinals last season, 18th against wide receivers. They faced the second fewest amount of pass attempts last season. So this was a horrendous defense against wide receivers. So sign me up there. And maybe I get talked into going with New England if, nobody ends up playing. But for now, I'm going Carolina. Like you mentioned the other day, Keith, you and I both took Carolina in our weekly pool to win that game. So if I'm picking Carolina to win that game,
though, right?
Well, win some, lose some. But if I'm picking Carolina to win, I'm not picking Carolina to win 34-27. So
no, I'm with you.
Give me Carolina against Derek Carr. Absolutely.
And I'm going to go ahead and do this here since we're here. I do at least $100 single entry every week because really I'm a cash game specialist. You shouldn't be listening to my MME plays. I'm pretty sure this is what it is. You can listen Sunday at 12 on Fantasy Six Pack if it changes, but I am going to go with Jaden Daniels, pair him with Terry McLaurin. I don't think you can beat that for 11. What was that? 11-3. My running backs, I'm going with Tajay Spears and Stevenson. Wide receivers, I love this core. Collins, Evans, obviously McLaurin, JSN. I'm going to go with McBride as my tight end with Milano out, hoping that he just feasts over the middle, and then the Panthers defense. And I'm going to do that every show because, again, I do at least $100 single entry every week. I'll kind of let you know what it is for my cash as well, even though this is technically an MME show. And you guys can make fun of me when I throw $100 away some weeks. So Go right ahead.
There you go. Like JSN's going to be like 60% owned, by the way. I mean,
he should be. He should
on
be.
vibes alone, yeah. But I mean, with Lockett banged up too, knowing how much you use 11 personnel, they're going to use 11 personnel. Like if you're at least into that, sharp into that, like that should be like the lock. But he's too fun not to play.
He is, especially at that price point, which is both what's so enticing and the problem because of the ownership. But
and just so y'all know, I did the 1,600 person $100 one, and again with 1,600 people, I feel like especially when you get up in that range of entry, I do not worry at all about how much somebody is going to be owned. Like I will admit that, like last year, Rashee Rice being owned unfortunately by the two guys who ended up finishing in front of me when I finished third. That did suck because that was basically the difference. Was I went with Rice and he didn't even have a great game that week, but us sharing him ended up basically being the difference. But I really do. Dave Eddy taught me a lot last year. I think he's one of the best people in cash games that there is. And he really says to focus on just trying to find guys that are get 3 times their salary. And that's the main goal in cash is if somebody's worth 8,000, how likely is it they're going to score 24 points? If somebody is 4,200, how likely, is it going to be there to score 12.6 and kind of build your out lineups that way? And I will admit that I had a lot more success last year doing that and a lot more success when you're in on somebody. I used to spread it out in between my lineups. Fuck that. Like if you like Nico Collins, he's in 2% or whatever of my lineups this week. Like if I'm in on somebody, again, for cash especially, like just go all in on them. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. You got locked in guys, like just differentiate the build around them.
Yep, exactly. And hope that and I was, I guess, an idiot for that. He said it very kindly, but he was like, if you feel really good about somebody, why are you changing that pick? And I was like, well, I want to have different chances to win. He's like, I don't think you know how this works. So thank you, Dave Eddy. Anything you guys want to plug or say before we get out of here other than go Pack go? Come on, Kev.
Josh Jacobs might actually be worse than Zeke Elliott as far as like an
Don't tell Rich. Don't tell Rich.
I will tell anybody who listens. Look, anytime you can go, get a running back to replace like the decently efficient one you had and trot him out there for 1.3 yards per carry, I mean, you got to do it.
As long as Devin Singletary isn't doing that on Sunday, that's all I care. So,
sad thing is that might be within the range of outcomes, but
it is. It is within the range,
100%. But look, hey, Emmanuel Wilson, 3 carries for 37 yards. Let's get a little running back controversy up in here in Green Bay.
Well, how long is Lloyd out?
Lloyd was out this week, but I mean, he can come back anytime.
Okay, I just couldn't.
It's probably a precautionary thing.
He said it was like IR, and I had not heard that.
No, he's on no. Dylan was placed on season-ending IR.
Yeah, thank God, right? You ain't got to worry about that.
Lloyd, apparently Lloyd or Wilson, like they're going to be coming for that man pretty soon. Like that's
so. Would you go pick up Wilson in deep leagues? Like, would that be somebody you'd be looking at adding? Okay, I got
100%. I think it's a great contingent play. Like considering Lloyd, and I think Lloyd is eventually going to be that like contingent play guy and probably have more of a standalone role than we think. But granted, this could be just a one-off because they're playing in South America right now. That's a Watson touchdown, by the way.
Oh, Christian Watson, he's back. Watson. When did his hair get like that? Holy cow, he's got the fro.
His mom.
I guess he's normally wearing dreads, right? Actually, I'm an idiot. Didn't he used to wear dreads? Was that what he was wearing 2 years ago?
He has. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
his whole family follows me on Twitter, except everybody but Watson himself follows me on Twitter.
What a dick!
What?
We need to change that. That's my stuff.
Yeah. He's just angry because he's the 4th best receiver on the team. But
Hey! I mean, that's Romeo Dobbs has that in spades.
Oh,
it's one of the two of them because Reed and Wicks are the 2 best. I'm pretty firm on that personally.
Well, Kevin's got me now into a Wicks believer. I wasn't.
I got you Wicks pilled now, don't I?
Yep.
Every Packers fan who really pays attention has been like screaming about Wicks because my roommate was like Wicks since midway through last season. He's like, he's the guy. So
like if there's anybody that like you have to build trust, but once you get in that like circle of trust of like Matt LaFleur, you are in. That's why he kept Mason Crosby around for God knows how much longer than he should have been. And even like bringing AJ Dillon back, even if it was like one of those weird veteran.
I didn't know
things.
what that was. I did not get that.
No, that was confusing.
2 yards in a cloud of dust. Goodness
gracious.
But
Wicks, when Watson was out for the first like 4 weeks, Wicks was excellent. He didn't earn he wasn't running like 70-80% of the routes or anything. He eventually did though, but that's where he earned a lot of his trust because, he was on the field and doing the right things. So he's in the circle of trust. I think he's literally been the fourth wide receiver as far as like snaps tonight, but it's one game and maybe they're just saving him for
you want to come say hello?
Fields that aren't in South
America. Is acting the fool. I'm sorry. That is why I have a silly look on my face. She is acting the fool. I'm married to a 12-year-old. And I mean 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, you might want to throw a disclaimer on that.
I was going to say a lot of disclaimers on that. I like how your disclaimer was 12-year-old boy.
I loved it.
As a Catholic, it's like, I don't know about that,
I could get you here if I want to and just clip that and throw that out there and get
the actions of Keith Fleming do not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's one of Nate.
We do not condone personal life.
Exactly.
We don't know what goes on in Georgia.
We had a good run here on the Daily.
It was. We got 3 shows. So
it's a great first and final episode.
Yeah.
No, this is technically the 3rd episode, 2nd with Kevin.
That's true.
Don't forget, Joe. We got started early. This has been a lot of fun. I am looking very much forward to the 3 of us getting together and doing what we just did for the last hour and 11 minutes. I will warn you, I doubt we'll ever go under an hour. Kevin's probably trying to do his best to move this along, but he had no idea he's running up against me and Joe. Good freaking luck. We did an 1.5-hour pod by ourselves last night on Cash Game. So
that's why this one isn't going an 1.5 hours. We got some of it out of our system.
That's very fair. But I not only do I respect both of these guys, intelligence and acumen when it comes to fantasy football, but they're just also awesome and fun people. So we're looking forward to the show. We appreciate all of y'all that listen to it. Again, if you have any questions during the show, it doesn't have to be about DFS. Like, we're happy to give you our opinions if you want it. And you need to be sure.
If you have questions about Keith's love life, we understand. Please feel free to shoot those forward.
I think it's better that I don't ask questions.
Easy, Joe. Because, come on, man. I'm going to have to make Brittany come sit next to me so people are like, Keith, is there really a Brittany or did you bake her up? Is this a Manti Te'o situation?
Yeah, that's right.
I saw her on Wednesday, though. She was in the background.
That's right. She's going.
Unless you hired her.
I was going to say, I've met her, so unless you hired someone, she does exist.
Central casting or,
We're going to be at rallies here before long, presidential rallies when people pay for that. So, anyway, be sure to follow Fantasy Frames Sunday mornings. They do a Sunday morning show. I believe it starts at 9. Jorge, sorry if I got the time wrong. There's so many smart people. Ask your questions. We go over everything. IDP, DFS, like you name it. You'll get it. And again, if you're not subscribed to YouTube, Fantasy Frames YouTube, do it because we're growing very rapidly and we're all very proud of that. There's 265 people watching right now. So, if you're not following Fantasy Frames, go ahead and do that. And, I was going to say follow all 3 of us on Twitter. Kevin's already got 1 million followers. Me and Joe don't follow us on Twitter. I'm just kidding. Follow Kevin as well. And like I said, it's been fun. We'll see you guys.
Especially if you're Christian Watson, follow Kevin.
Yeah, right. I'm going to try to make that happen for you, buddy. But we will see you guys next Friday, 9 p.m.